Yours truly. Y'all know who it is. It's your boy, Mr. Uncut. And y'all know it's been a lot that's been happening around the nation's capital. We've got a new presidential inauguration. I should say we've had a new president, um, new administration. Uh, Unfortunately, the guns are still going off. Unfortunately, the homeless population is still an issue. But before I get into all that, y'all know what the motto of Uncut Live is where we keep it 100 on 1,000. And y'all know we focus on social issues, mind, body, soul, spirit, faith, you name it. Uh, and as y'all can see to my right hand side, you know Mr. Fred Hill, the real deal. He's no stranger to Uncut Live Productions. Yes, I told y'all. Y'all kept saying, what's next? What's happening? What's up with Mr. Fred Hill, man? What's popping? What's cracking? So I told y'all I was going to deliver, and so I'm gonna just hand it right on over to him. I want to start off with this question though, from the viewers. They said, it seems like some of the same habits of what was happening in 2020 is still here. They say it seems like, despite the fact that we've had, we got a new administration, presidential administration. They said they haven't really seen that much of a difference. We knew last year we got the councilman who is he's back in there again. The guns are going off, if not more, from my understanding. I believe I was reading an article. They said it's twice the amount of people that's been affected by gun violence. And personally, I just want to know what this little thing was called. I don't even want to necessarily call it a state of an emergency, because when we had the insertion on the Capitol Hill, the city didn't go into a state of emergency on that. But then I just see this thing where it's something about a state of emergency with Mr. White and with the gun violence. Like, what's going on? I'm like, what's happening? Like,
I'll start with the most important piece first, and that's or the first question. With the new administration, when some people say they haven't seen change, you have to understand government moves at a different pace than what a lot of people would like. But I will say I'm happy to see the start that President Biden and Vice President Harris have taken, the issues that they have announced that they're addressing and shown us that they're addressing. One of the things that I was happy to see last week was that the president said no more federal dollars will go to private prisons. And when he made that statement and signed the order for that, that right there was a big piece into the revenue stream for private prisons. So maybe if that's interrupted, we're going to have a slowdown on some of the things, because you're not going to just be able to easily throw someone in prison now. You're going to have a backlog of cases, even more than what we have right now. And hopefully that forces community activists, local politicians, and just flat out the voters to get more involved in the judicial process and take a look at the judges that are being sworn in, the prosecutors that keep getting positioned time and time again, and intercept and interrupt what has been taking place on people of color for far too long. So when we look at some of the first steps that this administration has taken, I'm happy to see they addressed and announced there is a racial inequality in this country. I think this is the first time we've probably heard a president say it and have action right behind it. Obama said it, but it didn't really have any action behind it. So we'll see what happens in the rest of the 100 days. Of course, everybody wanted to hear what the plan was going to be for reparations, but I heard that there was a conversation, but reparations was not going to be a part of that first 100 days in office. I was happy to see yesterday that he made a clear statement to the Russian President Putin that the game is over, the gig is up, and it's not going to happen like it did before. And set the rule and the groundwork for some of the other things that need to be dealt with. On the local front, when we talk about the gun violence, when we talk about our people still unemployed, even before the pandemic, and we talk about government operations, that's not really looking like it's bringing relief to the people fast enough. First of all, everyone needs to understand, and I've been saying this for such a long time, hopefully some people are listening. Part of it is because it's the plan. Okay, and you need to understand that change is either going to happen to you or for you. You decide. It's going to happen to you or for you. When people in Berry Farms housing community got word that they were going to be closing Berry Farms down, there was going to be renovations planned for that community, that area. There were some people who were fighting to keep it the same. There were some people who were fighting to get back in after the renovation. But do understand and clearly understand, it's not part of the plan for you to be there.
Right.
It is not part of the plan for you to be there. If it was part of the plan for you to be there, there wouldn't be so much push and pull when it comes to the ask to our government officials, those who are in charge of that plan. And some of those same people who wanted to fight to keep things the same are some of the same people that are not involved on a daily or weekly basis enough to make a difference. And this is what people are beginning to wake up and see. Someone mentioned to me the other day, I really would have loved to see you run as an ANC commissioner first and then build your base before you try to run for a council seat. And I thought about it for a second and I said, this person is obviously not looking at what I'm looking at. They're missing the picture. You see, I didn't decide to just get into politics because I wanted to be a politician. I decided to get into it because I saw corruption at an all-time high. And I saw more and more people of this sector of the city, of Ward 8, that were going to be further disenfranchised, further pushed to the side because of the corruption level that had already had a good head start on their thinking and understanding of what's getting ready to take place. So they're left to fight for keeping Berry Farms the same. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't want to see Berry Farms stay the same. I don't want to see 16th and Good Hope Road stay the same. I don't want to see Malcolm X Park look like it's the same. I want to see the change that's about to take place and come to Ward 8 because it's been a long time. It should have been done years ago. But just like in the Shaw area and Trinidad, when we saw when the renovations came, those communities don't have as much of a challenge right now. But they also don't have a whole lot of poor black people living there either. So this is why I say you can be either part of the change or the change is going to happen to you. The thing that most people need to be doing right now is first to understand you're not going to stop the plan that's already in motion. That train left the station already. It's going to happen. Some people out here talking about stopping gentrification or slowing it down. I think that's a waste of your time. I think you ought to pick what it is you can do and position yourself so that you and your community around you benefit as much as possible. Because if I benefit, I know it's going to be some white people to benefit. I know that. But it just needs to be enough of us benefiting so it's not as much of a negative impact on our community. So wasting time telling some white person they can't live beside me is crazy. I mean, that's just as wild as, what's her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene on the council. I mean, in Congress. Quickly, my position with her is, if any of my tax dollars today contribute to her paycheck as a congresswoman, I want all my money back. And I want her out. Putting her off on a committee and she's still getting a congressional paycheck is a slap in my face for what she said and did. Don't just knock her off a committee. I don't care about her voting power. Get her out of there. There should be a law that says that if you come with any of this racial nonsense in your talk, in your walk, you can't come in this house. And the people that sent you there should have known better than to send you there like that. So it's a lot happening. Like you said, it's a lot going on right now with the gun violence that we have in Ward 8. I stick with what I said last year, and that is, until you come to understand there needs to be a different plan of engagement, and one that I call for is more monitoring devices throughout the ward, especially where the crime is repeated daily now, so that you can get an idea of who you're looking for, instead of asking the citizens and the residents to be the tattletale. Put their lives at risk, and for some people, they don't trust that the police are going to defend or protect them. So why would you put them in harm's way? Let the police, let the legislators understand that in order to fix the crime piece. Now, I'm going to tie this into two parts. In order to fix the crime piece, some would have to agree that it's a problem for them.
Yeah.
See, but the other part, that when I said there's two parts to this, remember I go back to it being part of the plan. And the plan is, one, some of you are going to die because you're going to kill each other. Some going to move out of the community because you're scared of what's happening. Seniors are not going to be able to pay the property taxes once redevelopment begins, and they're going to get forced out. Some will get forced out. That's going to leave a small number of people in the community, just as they did in Shaw, just as they did in Trinidad. Higher incomes are going to be able to move in. Property values will go up, and everybody else will be looking to reside in Ward 9. And unfortunately, unless, again, you plan to be a part of the change that's coming, this is your only option. You can have all the ANC meetings about development coming you want, but if you don't actually have a plan that you're included in the process, then you are going to be excluded in the carrying out of these things. So, I for one am happy to see, again, that it's finally coming and it's finally here. Motion action is taking place to clean up. I just don't like the method of cleanup.
Right. So, all my viewers out there and everybody that's watching, we're talking about, where do we go forth, the different things that's happening in the nation's capital of Ward 8 of DC, and that, what we have to do as a people. It is Black History Month, and we do need to tap in and realize who we come from, whose we are, the freedom fighters, the pioneers of Harriet Tubman and, Dr. King, who took a stance and took a position and said, we gotta stop this violence. We gotta love each other. We gotta love each other more. We gotta, getting engaged. I think that's also another piece that's missing too,
Mm-hmm.
is that we don't have enough of us to be uh, engaged, involved. Like you said, change is going to happen either way,
Mm-hmm.
but at least be involved or participate with the change that's taking place.
Too many people are looking for someone to not just lead but carry them.
Yeah.
And with that understanding, with that mentality, brings forth the inaction in that same person to do something that they could. If we're all carrying wood to the fire pit so that we can stay warm tonight, it's easier than two or three of us while a few sit there. Now the seniors, the elders, should be sitting around the fire first, while the others bring the extra wood. But we have too many in this community who look for government to do everything. And I'm one who has a problem with that. I believe that if I teach you how to fish, you can eat whenever you're ready. As opposed to waiting for me to deliver you a meal. Now that doesn't reference what we saw take place throughout this pandemic, because I'm happy and proud to see so many people across the country, and in DC especially, stepped up and did what they could. And that's the kind of love you're talking about right there. Doing what you can to make it easier, not just for you. No bag grabbing mentality, not just for you, but for you and anybody within your reach. And if you can do that, then you're going to see that there's going to be less confusion. There's going to be less harm. There's going to be less crime, because see, some people carry out the acts of crime because they have addictions. Some are mentally ill with no management of the traumas that they face day to day or have faced in times gone by. And some people just doggone greedy. Some people just don't care. Now, I think that with those first two, if there are efforts from the group of people in the community that can help someone stay fed, because the three most important things to me is a roof over my head, clothes on my back, and food in my stomach. And not, when I say food in my stomach, I'm not talking about oodles and noodles and ramen pasta every day. I'm talking about good quality organic food, because that's also going to increase your health, build your immune system so that you can withstand some of the crazy things that come along with a cold. But if you can't get the right nutrition into your body or in your community for you to go to the market or to the store and pick it up, then you're more susceptible to having high blood pressure, sugar diabetes, cardiac issues, the cancers that come from the wrong foods. Because I'm a survivor of cancer, and in November of last year, I was cleared. But I'm going to tell you, I became the biggest student to find out what was it that, because it just threw me for a loop. What was it that almost took me out of here that the medicine couldn't fix? And that was the wrong diet. I thought I was eating enough corn and broccoli and cabbage. I thought I was eating enough vegetables, but I wasn't eating the right vegetables.
Right.
See?
Right.
The right types of food, when I say food, clothes on your back, it don't have to be Gucci.
Right.
It just needs to be able to serve the purpose of clothing you, covering you, winter or summertime. And the roof over your head don't have to be the most expensive home. It can provide shelter of what it's designed for. You don't have to be in a gated community because, I compare everything to a plane. You can fly first class or you can fly coach. But if that plane have a problem and it's going down, the whole plane gonna crash. It ain't gonna be the first class first or the coach first. The whole plane is gonna go down. And everybody on there is gonna have to pray and hope that they survive it when it does crash. In the communities that we live in, We have too many people right now, too many kids right now that don't have the freedom of being able to enjoy a young person's life because they can't go out. And what does this do when you mix the pandemic in there? You got everybody locked up and bunched up in the house, and we wonder why we have a higher level of domestic violence. We have a higher level of child abuse, and that mixed in with the gaps in mental wellness and evaluations that should interrupt and intercept some of the actions that come out of that. We end up with what we have right now. So it is it's a lot of work to do, and I'm glad to see so many people now are involved in doing their part because I didn't see that before. But let's just hope the momentum carries forward and people begin to get ready for the change that's coming to Ward 8 because there ain't nothing you're gonna do to stop it.
Yeah, and I'm very glad with our beloved community partners, Ms. Rhonda Hamilton, really educating the community about attending to your mental health and educating residents and educating people the importance of what's needed and bringing awareness to that because that is something that is missing in this piece when we talk about the gun violence and we talk about especially with our youth, our teens, and the different things that's happening. We're in the midst of this pandemic, and we have the stress from the virtual learning.
Yes, it's huge.
That stress that's taking a toll on individuals. Some of our Ward 8 constituents are still trying to get a laptop, and they don't have the internet.
Internet access is key.
And then you have. I was working with an individual. She has 4 kids, and she's using her phone to help do the virtual learning. This is.
It's a lot that still needs to be done. In this city, I've seen there's just flat out a lot of money, and there's no excuse for how things work. In Ward 8 alone, there are over 200 nonprofits, right? But the measurement of what those nonprofits have done is minuscule to what is needed. Okay, yet they continue to still apply for grants every year, and some of them get them, and then the new one gets it. What I'd like to see is these same nonprofits understand that you too don't need to set the mentality that you need to depend on the government to eat. Any one of those nonprofits can deliver a service, a product, and generate income to pay their bills. And if you get grant money, it's in addition to what you're doing. The church is the same thing. But what those grant dollars I've seen do is buy silence. Because when the administration and when the council and when government doesn't deliver, you can't go make any noise because you took a bite of the apple. And if you want it the next time, Mr. Pastor, Mr. Preacher, if you want it the next time, ANC, whatever the number could be, the nonprofit that supports this one and that one, if you want it the next time, don't get out there and protest against me because I didn't give it. I gave you what you asked for. Don't worry about everybody else. That's that bag grabbing mentality that I've been talking about. That happens far too often. So you get people who they just get caught up into not being able to stand up and be a man or a woman. You are no different than those who sold us into slavery, who lived in Africa in our tribes. Right. Because you got a half a stick of butter more than I got, and that's where the line is in the sand. So it's going to take some courageous people. It's going to take some people who are willing to put it on the line and put their own desires aside for the greater good.
Right.
And we don't have a whole lot of people willing to do that. So many people tell me week to week, man, why don't you just deal with your businesses and leave the politics alone? Well, I still live here, number one. And when I got to drive down Good Hope Road, Martin Luther King, Southern Avenue, Mississippi, you pick a street. You pick a street. And I go to other areas of the city and see the transformation that took place there. And I've seen where so many people get hooked in on programs. It's just another thing. It's just like that grant going to the churches and that grant that goes to the nonprofits. It buys your silence because you got a piece of something, but you didn't get really what you needed. And government does have a responsibility to step in and help level the playing field, make things safe, provide public safety in our communities. But it should not be measured as to whether or not they choose to do it. Right now we have a council, and I say this over and over again, we have a council who, not one of them has so much been a security guard at Walmart, but they want to tell the police how to police the city. And I watch their decisions. They create the law. And when they create the law, it says to the police officer what you can and cannot do. And people in the community are wondering, hey, why you didn't chase that guy? You just watched him do this or you watched him do that. Well, there's certain rules put in place by the council that say you can't do it. A lot of people don't know this. And they all ask the question, and I shouldn't say all, but many ask the question as to why more police officers are not held accountable for those that we know should have been. Okay? And I don't have the time to really teach everybody, but I'm gonna always tell you, pick up a book and read. Do some research. If I tell you something, go check it out.
Right.
In the Constitution, many, many years ago, it was written in there certain protections for police. So some things that we in the public see them do or experience what they do, we don't even many of us don't even understand. It's written in the Constitution. There ain't nothing gonna happen to him or her.
And the Bill of Rights, they have the Bill of Rights,
Come on.
That has, from what I've seen and some of the work I've done, has some of the most highest protection there is than actual people that work in Homeland Security. But
they know what they were doing. Topic. They know what they were doing because, yes, it's true, many of the police departments that were birthed many, many years ago was to manage black people, Africans, okay? It wasn't about, let me provide public safety. It wasn't about that. It was about controlling us. And it grew into what we see today. But we have more of us now that are more people on the police forces across the country that are truly there, I believe, that are truly there to help serve and protect the communities that they work in. We still got to weed out some, but there are systems that can manage that. And many of our police departments don't have the systems that can weed out and manage those problems when they present themselves. We still got to have councils, local legislators, as well as congressional and Senate that are going to recognize for so many years the oppression that's been put upon African people. And I'm going to keep saying African because I see there's a huge effort to water down when you say black and brown. There's a huge effort to water down what's really taking place here. Everyone knows that when they see a crime being committed, like what took place on January the 6th, or what Congresswoman Green mentioned, if that was a black person, they would have been thrown out the second they said it. Yeah. It would have been a unanimous decision in the congressional state to get rid of this person. Yeah. Okay? But privilege the privileges that she has because she's white extends her another chance. And so we end up with only 11 that were speaking against. The ones you better watch is the rest of them who didn't say anything or didn't vote against her. That should just wake people up to say, okay, you know what? The problem is much bigger than this one woman. At least we know what she is. Yeah. How about the 199 that didn't say, that said nay? How about them? Where are they sitting when it comes to let's hang the vice president? You know, stop the programs that are for the people that are in need of assistance. All those efforts that we see stressed out day to day for so many years that leave African people short. Now, again, I said change these that happen to you or for you. With understanding this is all up against us, we got to wise up. We got to be the kind of people who we've always been, and that's resilient. You know, in this month of Black History, I've said this a couple of times, and each time that I get a chance to speak about it. A few years back, I did some research on my lineage and found that my great-great-grandfather, who I had the benefit of enjoying in life till he was 98 or so, but he had 4 brothers. And one brother was the first person to open a confectionery sugar shop in New York City. Another was a landowner. He owned over 1,000 acres in Oklahoma before they bombed it and shut all black businesses down and people down. And then there was one who was a gold miner, and then there was also one who was, I call it outlaw, but he was a rustler. He was just go get it, you know. But I went further than that line and found out that all the way back to Equatorial Guinea and Burkina Faso, that my family, on my mother's side and my father's side, were overwhelmingly, the majority of them were businessmen and women. And when I found that out after looking back to where they were, I wanted to go there, but then it made me stand up tall. It made me stand respected because now I know where the fight comes from when I see something unjust being done to people, because it was in my bloodline to do so. But it's in all of our bloodline if we just recognize who we are and where we come from. We're not just resilient so people can keep beating up on us. You know, we got to learn in those sparring sessions so that the next time the punch comes, we know to duck right instead of left, and then follow up with a double hook. You know, and a lot of us are giving up on that. We're looking for someone else to throw the punch instead of us being able to do it ourselves.
Y'all, so wow, that's beautiful. You know, we in the month of Black History, and y'all, and how do we go forth? It's real simple. One, we gotta get engaged. I put on the post this morning. I said, you gotta get engaged, but when you get engaged because one, you have the courage, you have the heart, and you care. And when you care about something, you don't sit on the sidelines and do nothing. Whatever you have that's in you, you use it to the best of your ability. And we have always been a people that have overcome. We come from a great lineage, despite the atrocities of slavery, you know, and we gotta really, as the scripture says, greater is he that's within thee, the greatness, the greater one that resides within us. There's a greater one that resides in us, the greater one that God has made us to be, the kings, the queens. You know, really, this is a time of not just, I don't like using the term revolution. I like using the term evolution, because evolution, it deals with growing. It comes from a more spiritual, hearty place, whereas by you tap into those roots and really tap into that DNA because it's in we have the DNA to win, and that's what we got to do, y'all. With what's happening in the Ward 8, we got to tap in. We got to roll our sleeves up. Roll our sleeves up. Hey, you know, have the heart, the courage, the will, the drive, the passion. Those are the 5 key points that's going to take you to the next round, and so we can not only see the change, but we become the change that we want to see.
Absolutely.
So, I appreciate everybody that's tuning in. I want to do a couple of quick shout outs to I want to personally thank you, Mr. Fred Hill, for the fine work that you're doing in Ward 8 and hiring some individuals, some returning citizens. I've been just around the whole city and just individuals that have really praised, really talk about the fine work that you're doing. And I want to actually thank you personally because as the community advocate over in Ward 8, I saw a couple of the porta potties over by the homeless encampments.
Yep.
And that's something that kind of touched my heart, because I know that is something that those individuals of the population, they need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Being able to be able to use the restroom. So I personally want to say, I thank you for that. That not saying that nobody cares, but just sometimes, the smallest thing is something like that really does make a true significance. And I just wanted to personally, tell you thank you for that.
Well, I can't take the credit. We did provide the service, but the government did and is right now on many of those camps providing the funding to take care of it. And it's something that's needed. Although there's a little deeper reach, I believe, that needs to come.
No, definitely.
How about them not even being outside?
Yeah.
How about, okay, and somebody even used this as an analogy. Why are you worrying about that when you get the contract to put the porta potties out there? Why you want, if they take them away then and put them in a hotel or something like that, they ain't gonna need you. Okay. Because the other side to that is I don't eat from one plate.
Right.
I learned diversification. My grandfather taught me a long time ago. Fred Jr., you're a poor rat if you only got one hole to crawl in. And it took me a little while for me to understand what he was talking about, but when I did, I learned that he was teaching me about diversification. So you don't have to lean on one thing all the time. Too much of the same thing all the time is not good for you. And many of our local business leaders in DC have seen that when they only depended on government contracts from the city and the city went to the left or the right, they were left with no income, with no contractor opportunities. And it's just, like I said, the city did this, and I'm just glad that we are a part of that solution. But I'd like to see the city get these people off the street. We have, in every agency, expendable dollars, monies that's not used, revenues that come in at record numbers from these cameras, and we got a stadium tax, and we got a liquid beverage tax now. You can't buy a bottle of water without paying a higher tax on that today than what you did 3 years ago. And that money has got to go somewhere. And when we look at what we really can do, even if it's only for the short term, if the government at least say, hey, you know what, through the winter, we're going to do everything we can, because we do have some of these empty buildings, but people need to understand just because the building empty doesn't mean it's going to run on its own. Funding has got to come from somewhere. Staffing's got to come from somewhere. Rules have to be established how this building is going to be used. It is not just that easy, but anything is better than leaving these people just to lay outside and possibly fall victim to hypothermia and some of the other concerns that we see during the winter. When the springtime comes and the temperature rises back up again, then maybe it's not as critical.
Right.
You know, maybe it's not as critical because quite honestly, as a result of the pandemic, it's more people that's homeless now.
Yeah.
It's more people that are out of work. Yeah. My own personal experience that I'll share with you all, and I know there's nobody else in the city having this problem, so I'm going to just call it mine, is renewing my driver's license. I've been trying since September of 2020 to renew my driver's license. And when I follow the steps that was recommended by our administration, by the DMV, of what to do, I heard some people get through, but I was one who didn't get through. Couldn't reach them, couldn't talk to them. And then when I called, it was the wrong day. I got called back next Tuesday at 3 o'clock again. And I had a news reporter this past Tuesday spend time with me to see what I was talking about. And they could not believe that I was telling them the truth. They wanted to believe that I was just anxious and wouldn't wait. They wanted to believe, because that's what they said. They said, you know, with the few people that I've heard complain about getting their driver's license renewed, maybe Mr. Hill is just going off on the left a little bit. Until I showed them. I went online to ask for an appointment. You can't get it past 30 days on the calendar online. I called the number at 3 o'clock on Tuesdays, and no one picked up all the way through to 4 o'clock. When they did, they said, "Oh well, all the appointments have already been given out. You got to call back next Tuesday." And that's been going on since September. Now, you know, my personal belief, and this is just the business side of me, when all of the government workers were home receiving their paycheck throughout the pandemic, and I was glad to see government did step in to protect the people somewhat. It should have also asked for people to start using this in their downtime and become innovative with solutions, because we are going to come back. We are going to open up. We are going to have to get back into the swing of doing things, and it might not look like it did last time, but nobody did that. And the system that we have right now, it is actually it's so bad that I've talked to people who work on Bowling Air Force Base. They're civilians, right? The mayor has this nice little pretty sheet that says during the pandemic, or actually if your license expires, your tags expire, all of that, throughout the pandemic and up to 45 days after, I'm going to say your driver's license and your tags is still good. But let me tell you something, Madam Mayor. The feds don't want to hear that. Because when you go to the military base, and when you go to the Pentagon or Homeland Security, and you give them your ID and it's expired, they ain't reading that piece of paper. It's coming from the jurisdiction that's saying, I'm providing a waiver for this person holding this document. Yeah. But they're saying, no, I ain't got to let you in here. Yeah. Now, airports might do something different, but I experienced it myself when I couldn't get on Bowling Air Force Base to deliver the Air National Guard some porta potties a few weeks ago. And that's how I found out about this. That's when I talked to people who couldn't go to work for 2 weeks. At that time when I talked to them. And unless they have a driver's license now, they still can't get on Bowling Air Force Base because their license is expired. Someone, if not the director, should have come up with a different plan. If everybody's not working in DMV, yet still getting a paycheck, and the job title that they had before the pandemic hit did not engage them to answer phones and deal with, they need to be cross-trained so they can still earn their check. And if you got more people answering the phones, then we can bring this down to an acceptable level where it doesn't look as bad as it does right now. There still has to be an effort to keep life moving instead of just shutting it down. You know, they saw what happened with the pushback on the restaurants. People still had to eat every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you can put some restrictions in place, but don't tell a business owner you got to shut down completely and not allow them the innovative mind to come to work and say, hey, you know what? I found a different way. I had a friend of mine that had over in Capitol Heights has a fish and chicken restaurant, really good food, stayed packed every day. And when the government came along and said you can't have anybody inside, he cut a nice hole in that brick wall and put a window there so he could still serve the people. A lot of other places just didn't open their door. And we've watched business after business go out as a result of it. So it's got to be a lot more innovative thinking when these challenging times come. And I'm not saying I'm the one that has all the answers. I just look at it as a way of trying to bring a solution rather than just a complaint. But you got to have people that's willing to listen, because in DMV right now, we don't have a lot of people that's willing to listen. You get somebody on the phone, they want to repeat to you what the status quo response is, and then hang the phone up. And that's not the way to be, because it's people that need